from KiraLiansFitness.com, and today we are talking about your relationship with food and why it is the determining factor if you lose weight, if you will keep it off or not. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition did some research and talked about studies that they've done and researched, and on average, people who lost weight from traditional diets regained 2/3 of the weight within a year, and then within 5 years regained all of the weight. And that's just one study that was brought up, but I'm also reading another book that talks about this at length. And it's just really, really common to regain weight after you have gone on a traditional diet. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There is like our bodies, just like the metabolic processes of the body. Our body likes to hit our set point and stay there. But a lot of this comes down to restriction and the brain. That's why, as a nutrition coach, I have really honed in on this stuff, because if we don't talk about our approach to food and our relationship with food, then we're doing ourselves a huge disservice. And it doesn't matter what you do, unless you have that solid relationship with food, you're not going to be in a good place where you're going to be able to lose weight and keep it off. So basically, traditional diets, they kind of suck. What kind of happens, I'm looking off I made some really great notes for this today, and I just don't want to miss anything. So there's a cycle that takes place when we go on a diet, and it starts with restriction. So you're like, okay, I'm only going to eat 1,500 calories, or I'm going to track macros, or I am going to do keto, or I'm going to lower my carbs, whatever it is. It always starts with some kind of deprivation. And initially, there's success. If you do a low carb diet, then you lose weight pretty quickly, because carbs absorb water and they keep water in our bodies. So we lose water weight pretty quickly when we lower our carb intake. But even if you were to, restrict your calories and eat less calories, you're going to have initial success. Maybe you lose 15, 20 pounds. It's awesome. But then we start getting into a point where we are feeling deprived, either physically or mentally. And so if we're on like a low calorie diet, we start to, get really hungry. We have more cravings. We don't have as much energy. If we are doing like a low carb thing, we might start to feel deprived because we're watching all of our friends eat pie this summer and we want that. Or, we love pasta and we can't have that. And so we start breaking our rules, the rules that we set for ourselves. And as we do that, we also lose trust in ourselves, because we just watch ourselves like trip and fall over and over again. And we're just like, we don't have the trust in ourselves that we're going to be able to make a good decision. We're continuing to betray ourselves, and that feels really crappy. So then what happens? You end up gaining weight. On top of that, you gain the weight back. Now you're even more frustrated with yourself. You're frustrated with how your body looks. You're frustrated with the fact that you can't keep following your rules, that you can't stick with your diet. It's really frustrating. And then what happens? You end up going back onto that diet. You're like, okay, I'm going to reset. I'm going to do this. Like, I did this back in January. I can do this again now. It's Monday. I'm going to restart. Yes, this weekend happened, but like, I'm going to redo this again. And it's just a cycle of doing this over and over and over. And that's exhausting. So why not do it the right way from the beginning and build that healthy relationship with food, and then come at this with an approach where it's not restrictive. We are going to do things in a really balanced way. One of the things that you can do to do that is you kind of like push out some of the bad stuff, or I don't like to call any food bad, but it's the food that is not aligned with your goals. You kind of push that out by adding in so much of the really great stuff. An example of that on a micro level might be if you go out to dinner and you get a burger and fries, but before you get your entree, you ask for your waiter to bring you a salad. You have your little house salad, and then you start in on your burger. After you're done eating your burger, then at that point you can have fries, but you're probably so full at that point that you really don't eat that many fries. Doing this on a macro level may look like you plan out all of your meals for the week, and you make sure that every single meal always contains about 35 grams of protein. So like every meal has like 4 to 6 ounces of turkey or chicken, and then or eggs or fish or steak or pork. And when you start eating that meal, you start eating the protein, you start eating the vegetables. And then at that point, whatever, if you're still hungry, then you get into the rice, the potatoes, the stuff like that. But you end up just kind of not saying that potatoes or rice are bad, because they're definitely not, but you're getting in the really important stuff. You're getting in your protein, you're getting in your micronutrients from eating the produce first, and then you get into the other stuff. It also just might look like, from like a macro perspective, swapping out all of your meals to being like clean, healthy, whole foods. And then once you're done eating that lunch, then at that point, if you want a really small little piece of chocolate, then you can do that. Or like, you know that you want to split dessert, but you make sure that you have eaten all of your healthy, big, the most important foods. And then at that point, if you have a few bites of dessert, you can totally do that, but you're pretty full. So that comes secondary. Also know that you don't want to approach any kind of diet or your approach to fat loss. You don't want to do it from a place of restriction, and understand that like no food is truly off limits, because the second that you say that I can't have ice cream, or I can't have wine, or I can't have carbs, you're gonna want it 10 times more. So understand that nothing is ever off limits. It's just something that you probably don't want to have as much of. So go back to that last concept of adding in more of the good stuff, and then that will then there's not as much room for the stuff that isn't in alignment with your goals. But it's not that you can't have that, because you can. The choice is entirely up to you. You are empowered to make whatever choice you want. It's just some things are going to be more aligned with what you're trying to achieve than others. And then the last part is really that psych piece. Examining your unhelpful beliefs. So we all have beliefs about ourselves. We all have different beliefs about food, and we want to take a look at them pretty deeply. So this is actually something that I work on with my clients. It's a huge part of it, because back in the day, I used to just say like, oh yeah, well, eat this and then eat this and eat this. And if you eat like that, then you'll be all good. But then people kept not following through. And I was like, I just don't understand why people can't just like eat what I'm telling them to eat. And it's not that easy. We all have our own relationships with ourselves and with food, and we all have so many different reasons for choosing and not choosing certain decisions, and it's really not that simple. So at this point now with my coaching clients, I work on them at looking at their perspectives and their beliefs on food and how they treat themselves and why they make the decisions that they make. And this has been extremely helpful for my clients since we've started doing this, because until you truly get to the root of the issue, everything else is just a band-aid. So the first thing is to ask yourself, is this thought that I'm having, that I'm experiencing right now, is it even true? And if so, what evidence is there to prove that? And then the next thing is to figure out where these ideas came from, followed by considering alternative perspectives. And then the final piece is to challenge the thoughts and potentially create new ones. So I came up with a couple of examples that I have worked with clients on specifically with these two things. One of them is the idea, I can only lose weight if I eliminate carbs. So I asked this client, is this really true? You can only lose weight when you eliminate carbs. Is this really true? And if so, what evidence do you have that supports that? And she has evidence that she has lost weight when she's gone low carb before, but it's not necessarily true that that is the only way that she can lose weight. She has lost weight before by eliminating carbs. We talked about that mechanism already in this video of why that works and how that works. But it's not wholly true 100% because she has never done anything else to be able to lose weight. And then where did this idea come from? Well, it came from just media. So many people got into keto, and so she tried, lowering carbs, and that's what worked. And so, to a certain extent, it is true. But like I said, it's not necessarily the only way. So we're considering alternative perspectives already, because now we're going to start considering, balancing energy intake, as well as continuing to keep carbs in her diet, just more from a whole food, not simple carbs, but more complex carbs. So we're keeping those things in, and we're going to try it from that angle. So she's considering that perspective now and challenging her own thoughts when, she has a dinner and she's going to eat potatoes in that dinner. She's reminding herself that, I've presented her with a lot of evidence that she's utilizing, and she is reminding herself as she's eating these potatoes at dinner that, these do have a benefit, and she does feel better because now she doesn't feel super restricted. She has some energy. Her workouts are feeling really great. She isn't getting tired every evening. And she feels like she could keep going on this for longer. So she's creating those new perspectives as she goes along and showing herself that this way also works. And then another client that I'm working with came to me with the belief that it wouldn't matter if she skipped a workout, because she would be fat no matter what. So we are starting to look at that. So she was skipping workouts pretty regularly, and finally we got down to it. It's like, okay, well, why? What's going on? And it doesn't matter if I work out or not. Like, I'm just gonna be fat forever. So I ask her, is this definitely true? From like a perspective of logic, and no, it's not logical. It's just a really crappy belief that she has. And I ask, if there's any kind of evidence that she would have to support this. And I mean, her evidence is that she does feel like she's been overweight for a really long time. She has tried working out in the past and can't stick with it long enough for it to really make a difference. But aside from that, there's no evidence that it is true that she is actually going to be fat forever. No. Okay, so we have ruled out the fact that this is true, that this is logical. It's neither of those two things. And so I ask, where did this come from? And it's that, that cycle that I was talking about. Like, she would do it for a little while, get some results from it, but then her motivation started to dwindle. She wasn't, she got some results, initially, but then after, a few weeks, it was like motivation really wasn't there anymore. It wasn't like every single time she worked out, she lost 2 pounds. So, it was just kind of like, well, whatever, does it even really matter? And so that's where that idea came from. And so I asked her to consider some alternative perspectives, maybe look at different benefits that she would receive from doing one of those workouts. And we set some performance goals. We are working on, having more core strength, because her lower back, she has a lot of lower back pain. So, working on her core strength, testing her plank time, getting her to be able to do side planks without her knee down. That's been a really helpful one. Just like these little victories are really helpful for her, because now she's able to see that the workouts are not just to help her lose weight, that they are also helpful in getting her just to simply feel better physically. And get some wins under her belt. The more she can say, okay, I'm going to work out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then when she checks all of those boxes, she feels really proud of herself. So those are, new perspectives that she's creating. And, she's challenging her thoughts of, well, it doesn't matter if I work out because I'm going to be fat forever. She's challenging those thoughts because they're not logical. And she's creating new thoughts of, I work out because I'm strong, and I'm strong mentally. I'm strong enough to get myself to do this. And I'm getting stronger by doing the workouts. It's pretty cool to see myself be able to go from pressing 10 pounds overhead to being able to press 20 pounds overhead with dumbbells, and just things like that. And all of that can be applied to food as well as working out, or really anything in life. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you have any questions about working with me, you can always send me a message, email me, Kira@KiraWilliamsFitness.com. There's a form on my website to contact me, and I really look forward to chatting with you.